It was a Tuesday that I walked into the unknown. It was a sunny day in northwestern Mexico that I finally gave in to the forces within me and around me. It was a Tuesday that I stepped into the flow of life and began to learn what so many of us have been missing out on. For the longest time now during these videos, I've hemmed and hawed and put off telling you what I hope to share with you in these next few videos. I don't know why. No, that's not true. I do know why. It's because of the same senseless fear that kept me from sharing the information in the first place. It was because I am, to this day, afraid of being the crazy man. And if that made no sense back then, it certainly makes even less sense now that I've seen what I've seen, now that I know what I know. You see, that feeling inside of me turned out to be what we've all been looking for, both individually and as a people. It was a leader that I could count on. It was a guide that wouldn't steer me wrong. It was a faithful friend and a truly loving hand that had been reaching out to me from inside of me for my entire life, and which I'd been taught by other people to ignore. It was that part of me which I had been told was causing me to act naively, stupidly, or illogically when I was little. And yet, it was the only part of me that was truly wise, sensible, and right all along. That Tuesday, I went to probably 8 churches. And of those 8, I only found 3 with their doors open that were willing to see me. I didn't know God kept bankers' hours. Neither the day nor the hour. Isn't that what it says in the holy books? Apparently they know something that God doesn't, because they had a schedule to keep and other things to do when the crazy gringo who wandered the streets of Tijuana came knocking. I remember the day. It was a Tuesday. And I remember the hour. It was from 9 in the morning until about 4 in the afternoon. I remember because I was there, a passenger on some incredible journey whose destination I couldn't have begun to imagine. I delivered the printed copies of the vision to 3 churches that day. And before anyone has the chance to ask which faith is the true faith, let me stop and tell you that it's none of them. And it's all of them. There was a small Pentecostal church, well built, but small and obviously short on funds. There was a very, very, very small Baptist church, and there was quite possibly the smallest Catholic church in Tijuana. And they all took the message, but they didn't know what to do with it, and frankly, neither did I at the time. And so it went. Each day, I would take as many copies of the vision as I could fit in my small canvas briefcase. Each day I would walk without knowing where I was going. It was like I knew where the churches were. And sure enough, I'd find them there. Each encounter at these churches made the next one easier. I would simply tell them my story, explain that I didn't know why I was doing this, and ask them to add the numbers together so that they could understand that at the very least, this was something worth taking the time to read. And that was that. Then I would move on. And as I walked and walked, day after day, I started to feel different. I wish I could explain what it was like, but it's not that simple. There's some things that you simply have to experience, like the taste of ice cream or the smell of lilacs. Explanation defies words that don't refer to other experiences. And that's how it was with this. I felt different, in a very profound way, as though I could see things in a light I'd never seen them in before. I began to understand that all around me were lessons to be learned that I'd been ignoring for most of my life. I'll give you a quick example that might illustrate the point better. See, by this time I'd begun to feel some sensation inside that I can only describe as empathic or maybe spiritual. It was like a Geiger counter that could pick up on sincere, devotional faith in God. I would walk into some places and there was nothing. The Geiger counter needle didn't move at all. And I could remember at least a few where it was there, but it was faint. And I remember one in particular where the feeling was so strong, it practically knocked me to my knees. It was one of those dancing churches. You know, the ones where folks start singing and dancing and clapping their hands. And there was no real sermon or verses read from the Bible, just people singing and dancing and celebrating their faith like some kind of God-love dance club. The feeling was so strong there that I thought, can I just sit and enjoy this for a while? And so I did. I didn't try to approach anyone with the vision. I just sat and felt the amazing sensation that was humming through me. Well, after a while, that guide inside of me, that intuitive feeling, let me know that it was time to move on. And so I went back downstairs and outside, and once out there were a few members of the congregation that were talking amongst themselves. So I approached them, and I've got to tell you that it was at this point that I started thinking about what I was doing for a bit, instead of just letting myself be led by that feeling inside of me. I think it was because I could tell that this spirit or vibe or whatever you want to call it was very strong, and so it seemed very important that I let these people know, hey, there is a message here for you. A little background information on that day. I knew from a previous day that there was this small synagogue that was only open on certain days at certain hours. And I had resolved that I was going to be there on that day during those hours to deliver this vision, this message. But I spent so much time trying to convince these people at this dancing church that this message was for them and that it was important, that I must have spent 2 hours there talking with them. And I didn't make it to the synagogue on time, and I wondered why. I was like, am I not supposed to go there? What is it that this was supposed to teach me? Because, see, by then, as I said before, I'd learned that there are no random events when you're following that silent voice inside of you. Everything is for a reason. Everything has meaning. And as I was about to walk home, kicking myself in the head for having spent so long trying to convince those people that the message was important and that it was for them, one of them asked me if I could use a ride home. So I took him up on it. And we continued the discussion we'd been having, but my thoughts weren't really there anymore. Instead, I was trying to understand the meaning behind this encounter, behind the long hours that I'd wasted. And it was just as he was dropping me off near my front door that I realized what I had learned. I learned at that moment that I could have spent 5 minutes or 5 hours discussing it with those people and gotten no closer to convincing them of anything. I learned that you can't convince anyone of anything. The best you can possibly hope for is to plant the seeds and move on, hoping that they'll grow. It was a lesson that I never forgot, which is why I can assure you each and every time that I do one of these videos that I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm simply sharing the information, sharing these experiences, planting the seeds and moving on. The gardener in you will decide which will grow, if any, and which won't, and that's fine by me. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you have the best day you ever had. And please, remember that you're loved.